Hello everyone and welcome to Golden Nova's First Reacts, where I react first to all the things you want to see reacted to first, as long as I'm the first person you come to react to things first. New Crystron! It's been a more billion years since we last visited the DRACOSLAYER storyline. Well, okay, technically the Magispector stuff is part of that, but I'm not talking about the first half of it, I'm talking about the second half. Remember that we got those Metal Foes cards a while ago, and they just kind of showed the aftermath of the fight with VFD, and then nothing, no connective tissue between the end of its story and potentially other stories in the future. Still waiting on the Zefra Metaltron connection. None of this is helping with that, but we have something. Maybe some future release cards will explain it. Maybe the answer is not so far away. For now, we've got more of these cards. One of the... I feel like one of the most true-to-form Delta Excel Synchro decks out there. There's things like the TG cards from the anime that are like from the stock material, but as far as things that are inspired by it, that emulate it, that aren't connected to the anime, Crystron's I feel is the closest to it. And I'm eager to see how that's expanded on. Starting with Crystron Tristaros. Tri-Brigade. Crystron Tri-Brigade is a level 2 water machine tuner monster. You can only use the first and second effect of this card once per turn. When your opponent activates an effect as a quick effect, you can special summon a Crystron monster from your deck, except a copy of this card. Then, immediately after this effect resolves, synchro summon a machine synchro monster using monsters you control, including the special summoned monster. So, our previous zones for our tuners were hand and graveyard, and I think banishment? God, it's been a while since we've done the Crystron Explained stuff. But the idea was that we had our tuners that could draw from a particular zone and then sync with them. I don't think any of them summoned from the deck, but we have a pretty similar effect here where we can draw from the deck here, which is pretty nifty for accessing any machine synchro monster that we want. You can banish this card from your graveyard to destroy a synchro monster you control, and if you do, special summon 2 Crystron monsters from your deck. Also, you cannot special summon monsters from the extra deck for the rest of the turn, except machine monsters. Okay, so we're not synchro locking ourselves, so we can still access the entire machine pool from the... Oh, but it's the extra deck. That's still... That does mean that there's a lot of synchros that we're leaving on the table. Then never mind, it's not quite as flexible as I had immediately thought it was going to be. But, you know, our opponent activates anything, we make a bunch of different machine synchro monsters. And these two aren't really connected to each other. This one doesn't necessarily get used at the same time as the first one. I forget if because a lot of our Crystron synchros have floating effects. I forget if they trigger if we destroy them or if we send them to the graveyard. Crystron Sulpharrd, a level 5 water machine monster. You can only use the first and second effect of this card once per turn. If this card is in your hand or graveyard, you can target a Crystron card that you control, destroy it, and if you do, special summon this card. Also, you cannot special summon monsters for the rest of the turn except machine monsters. And if this card is normal or special summoned, you can send up to 2 Crystron monsters with different names from your deck to the graveyard, except copies of Sulpharrd. Oh, okay, that's really good. So this is a play off of Sulfefnir, which you could summon if you controlled a Crystron, but then you had to pop a Crystron on the board. Which wasn't too bad because a lot of Crystrons have graveyard effects. Here, you pop the card as part of the summon, and it can summon from grave, so you can just deploy this as needed. And then when it's summoned, you get to Foolish Burial 2 Crystrons, so you get 2 of their graveyard effects immediately. That is probably the best addition so far out of these two, so not a huge revelation, but nice to have, especially if we go Tristaros, quick sync into Sulpharrd, make a level 7, and then we can pop a card to bring back the Sulpharrd and trigger the effect that bins to. Next up, Crystron Erskeltas. Crystron Erskeltas, level 7 water machine synchro monster, not a synchro tuner, just a regular synchro. It requires 1 tuner and 1 or more non-tuner monsters as material. You can only use the first and third effect of this card once per turn. First effect, if this card is synchro summoned, you can add a Crystron card from your graveyard or banishment to your hand. So we're not grabbing from the deck, we're grabbing cards that we've already used, but it can be from both grave or banishment. So bit of variety when it comes to the places we can pull from. Your opponent's monsters lose 500 attack and defense. Just debuff the board. It's fine. If this Synchro Summon card is destroyed by a battle or card effect, you can special summon a Crystron monster from your graveyard or banishment. Oh, this does not say a different Crystron monster on here. If the translation on this one is correct, you can pop this and bring it back. Granted, you won't be able to do it again because it only triggers if it was a Synchro Summoned card. But it does mean you can replace it to use one of your, like, destroy a card to do a thing effects, and then keep this around to sync up with it. We already have Sulpharrd. We already have this one. Neither of these are tuners, so these don't go into a level 12 monster. Machine Synchro... Yeah, so it looks like the typing is correct on that one, so... maybe there's another line that this works with. Crystron Inclusion. Very glad that we're all being included in on this. Continue a spell card. You can only activate one copy of this card per turn, and you can only use the third effect of it once per turn. When this card's activation resolves, you can add a Crystron card from your deck to your hand, except a copy of this card. Searcher! The first time each of your Crystron monsters will be destroyed by battle each turn, it is not destroyed. And you can banish this card from your graveyard, then target a Crystron monster in your graveyard and special summon it. Ooh, okay. This has the True King symbol in the background. This is like the counterpart to the Parametalfoes fusion. I feel like this has to be it. Like, this is one of the 3 arts we will eventually get. We'll get Zodiac in like a different corner opposite the Metalfoes one. So it's a Searchtron activation. And then from that point, it's just battle destruction for your Crystrons once per turn each. But I guess you want to toss it as soon as possible, because then it becomes a monster reborn. Can we pop any card with Sulpharrd? You can target one Crystron card you control. Okay, so this could pop that. This could pop Inclusion, and then we get to use the graveyard effect. Crystron Cluster, continuous trap card. You can only use the second effect of this card once per turn. Crystron cards you control cannot be banished by your opponent's card effects. You can target one face-up card on the field and shuffle a Crystron card from your grave or banishment into the deck. And if you do, destroy that target. If you control a Crystron Synchro monster, you can destroy 2 cards instead. Now, see, that seems like a pretty nifty effect. You get to recycle your cards, you pop cards, and if you have a Synchro, this is a pop 2 cards every turn. That's really good. I cannot express just how good that is for you folks. That's an Icarus attack every turn that doesn't cost anything. Being on a continuous trap card does suck, but it helps you play the long game. Heck, even if you don't have an established field, it's just a pop. And then the banishing is nice against certain things. I suppose this helps against things like... what am I thinking of? Evenly Matched? Mirror Jade from personal experience. I can't Mirror Jade my opponent's Crystron monsters. My day is shattered. What's going on with these? God, I wish I had more Crystron knowledge off the top of my head to know exactly what the situation with these little bastards are. So, any Machine Synchro monster. I don't want to pull up a gigantic list of Machine Synchro monsters, but off the top of my head, you can make things like Samurai Destroyer with this. The highest level Crystron monster that you can pull out is a level 5 from the deck. So, like, level 7 is the hard limit on using Tristaros. Although, it says we have to use the special summon card. We don't necessarily have to use Tristaros. We're probably going to, because it was the initiator and it is the tuner. But there is a chance that we get to use this to quick summon something like our level 12. Like, we summon out a tuner with this instead of a non-tuner. And then we have more non-tuner material, so we quick banish their field using a bunch of material that we summoned out. That'd be pretty funny. The fact that this turbos out 2 Crystron... This gets 2 Crystrons out of our deck onto the field, and this one gets 2 Crystron monsters from our deck into the graveyard. So this is a ton of setup. is there like a good, like a really good machine synchro monster that we can pop with this that we wouldn't mind like having it popped? I guess the idea is that we pop Erskeltas with either of these, because then it just comes right back. And then as part of that, you get a Crystron card from your graveyard or banishment. What's the... You're getting one of the material back, but honestly, you wouldn't want to do that because both of these have graveyard effects you want to make use of. Man. There's a... Man, synchro decks are too complicated for me. We can't... We've got to stop releasing these synchro decks. I can't respond to these properly because I don't know what I'm talking about half the time. Crystron Cluster is good for the long game. Especially because it feels like Crystron generally want to wait a little bit to or not want to wait, but have to wait a little bit to activate their effects. So having a way to interrupt the opponent with hard removal is pretty nifty. Inclusion is like 3 Rotas for the deck that also turn into Monster Reborns once you get them settled into the graveyard. Erskeltas seems like a really good like ladder climbing card. You know, it searches you, or not searches you, it recurs one of your Crystron cards back so you can use them again. Sulpharrd is repeatable material that shunts Crystrons into the graveyard. And Tristaros is just like if you're going first and your opponent wants to hand trap you, you go what if I synchro summoned instead? You didn't consider that part of my ruse, you fool. I do want to check one thing, though. I do want to just pull up Crystron while we're here, because I'm very curious. Okay, if the Synchro Summon card is destroyed by a battler card effect, that triggers no matter what. Citri specifically summons a non-tuner. That was almost from graveyard. Oh no, we gotta... Man, I hate that it limits it to 10. You have thousands of cards on this site. Keep it, at least put 100 all the time. Okay, Rion summons from the... Okay, so Rion does do banishment. And then Quan summons from the hand. Okay, so we did not have a way to summon from the deck beforehand. And now we do. That's... It feels pretty big. Crystron Impact has always seemed like... Was it Crystron Impact or a different trap card that was huge? I actually think both of them are really powerful, so it's good to see that we have more reasons to play those ones. What were our graveyard's effects on these monsters again? You can banish Presortal to summon a Crystron from your hand. Okay, so it's just a drop out of the hand. Rosenix is pretty famous for a lot of machine decks that run Scrap Recycler, because this is just a basically no strings attached level 1 token. Smyger adds a Crystron Speller Trap. Oh, okay, there we go. Prepare for the million jokes about this card to resurface, by the way. But you do have a searcher for all of your trap cards. Oh, and no, I guess not none of your spell cards. Now we actually printed the Crystron spell card that we can use. Look. Crystron spell. Woo! Incredible. So that's the Spell and Trap Searcher. Okay, so Sulfafnir was the one we were talking. This is the Sulf retrain here. It discards your hand or graveyard. You can discard... Oh, it doesn't summon for free. You have to discard a Crystron to special summon it. Though it still summons from graveyard itself. But then it has to destroy a card we control anyway, so that's pretty blech. But if it's destroyed, you summon a Crystron from your deck, so it floats itself. So sometimes you just want to have it pop itself. Fistvern, what does this do in Banished? Add a Crystron monster from your deck to your hand. Oh, okay. So when you summon the new Sulpharrd, you can send Smyger and Fistvern, and that's a monster, and that's a Speller Trap. And if that spell is inclusion, then that searches you any Crystron card on top of that. Oh, that's really good. Not knowing the intricacies of the Crystron game plan, that seems pretty useful. Okay, we won't dig into that anymore right now. I don't want to spiral off into a million different directions. We already get a bad enough rap for doing filler on these reveals as it is, so I'm just going to leave it to all of you. What am I missing out on here? What does this enable? The Crystron truthers out there, does this provide the thing that you were waiting for? Of course, outside of the Hulk of Fibrax, unbanned. That's a nothing's gonna get past that one. You'll have to accept that as just fact. It's not coming off the list. But outside of that, do these help? Are these what we were looking for? And what's some quacky payoffs? Some big quacky payoffs that we can do now. I'm very curious to see how the Crystrons operate, and if we get to see these guys at a regional doing their thing, I'm going to be very happy. So thank you all so much for joining me for another first reveal once again, and as always, I will see you next time. Bye-bye. Today's episode is brought to you by Dragon Shield. Get the sleeves as strong as dragon scales and get 5% off your order by using the coupon code GoldenNova at checkout. It was also brought to you by my lovely patrons, including this month's illustrious Quasar Commanders, Upstairs Media, and the Wizard Moose, Nebula Navigator's 3rd Dynasty, 50 Gigabits, Ada Basilisk, Adams Ajdel, Oexo Toahime, Anansi Dragon, Ancient Wizard, Andrew Newman, Kane Senpai, Chibi Gohan, Christopher Fuss, Clockswork, Comrade Copperbottom, Eric, Frankie, Garland Chaos, Green Knight, Gloomba 331, Great Big Pillock, Hairbear, Harry the Ominous Benefactor, Howling Zangetsu, Iron Zero, Iskander 711, Carp, Leo 458, Mana Charge, Marion James E. Picata, Megacombi, Millennia Asta, Mern, Muse Clark, Nathan Vig, Natiel Lee Alexander, Orozco 09096, Panther J, Pat Poos, Rebel King Lucifer, Red Eyes Jackalow, RJ the Jank Monarch, Serenity Towns, The Critic of Innocence and Thievery Coast, Cosmic Crusaders Andrew J. Whitaker, Ariel Kersey, Bedin Von Titty Sprinkles, Beelzephyr, Beluga Masta, Blitzwolf, Chaz Ghost, Dr. Reaper R.I.P., Eki Bullock, Eva Padilla, Hike Boyagian, Herbal D, Ignis Heat the True DRACOSLAYER, Inblink, Kale the Dragon, Kevon Public, Lobamaru 02, Manga Pages, Matt Simmons, McSpoofy, Michael Shimobukuro, Nitromo, Nyx, Obsidian, Shizuka Nijimura, Sophie, apparently, Stephen Williamson, Taylor Seymour, The Legendary Raven, The Phantom Knights of Shitted Pants, The Pokemon 52, Tiger X2476, Weasel King of Weaseltown, and Zaldreka, as well as the wonderful Starlight Explorers you see on screen now. If you'd like to help me in my journey to cover all of Yu-Gi-Oh's archetypes, get my videos early, be a part of these credits and other awesome perks, it would mean the world to me if you'd check out the link to my Patreon in the description or consider joining as a YouTube member.